The space station of Varnik 7 was quiet most days. It floated in the edge of Sector Delta, far from war zones or trade routes. Only travelers, explorers, or scientists ever came here. Varela, the station's landlady, liked it that way. She ran a small boarding house near the docking bay. Most of her guests were polite gray-scaled Varnikians, feathered Blorans, or the occasional four-eyed Nara. But one day, something changed. A message blinked on her tenant console. New arrival, species, human. Name, Jason Weller. Rilla frowned. She had never hosted a human before. In fact, she had never even seen one up close. The training documents called them strange mammals from Earth, with emotional behavior and fragile biology. But they also said humans were clever and dangerous. She watched the docking cameras. A tall figure stepped out of the shuttle. 2 legs, 2 arms, no scales, no armor. Just soft, pale skin and odd clothes. He smiled at the camera. Varela's antenna twitched. He looks harmless, she muttered. But why does he smell so warm? Jason walked into the lobby carrying one bag. He looked around with curious eyes, then smiled at Varela. Hi, he said. I'm Jason. Is this where I check in? His voice was calm. Friendly Varela nodded slowly. Yes. Welcome to Varnik 7. You will be in room for B. No noise after second moonrise. No flesh-eating pets. No illegal tech in the vents. Jason chuckled. Understood. She handed him the crystal key and led him upstairs. As they walked, she noticed something strange. His walk had a bounce, a rhythm, almost playful, and there was a strange bulge in his lower garments. She tried not to stare, but curiosity crawled through her mind like a worm in soft soil. Later, that evening, Varela sat behind her desk reading station reports. She was just finishing her 4th cup of fermented root tea when she heard a sound. Water. Running. Jason was in the shared bath chamber. Nothing strange about that. But then came a sound she did not expect. Singing, the human was making noise, something soft, melodic. She leaned closer to the vent. Sweet Home Alabama. She blinked. What was Alabama? Was it a human weapon? Worried, she walked upstairs. The door to the bath chamber was slightly open. Steam curled out like a living cloud. Jason, she called. No answer. She pushed the door open slightly. You are not allowed to tamper with. Her eyes fell on him. He stood with his back to her, water streaming down his skin. She saw muscle, strange hair patches, and then her eyes locked. On the thing between his legs, she gasped. Her breath caught in her throat. It was long, pink, slightly curled at the end. It looked just like a mini Shai Hulad, she screamed. Jason turned quickly, slipping and grabbing a towel. Whoa, what the hell? Varela pointed, panicked. Why do you have a mini Shai Hulad between your legs? Are you smuggling sand beasts? That is a crime. Jason blinked, wrapping the towel around himself. What? No, it's a part of me. She backed away, eyes wide, antenna shaking. You implanted it. Is it alive? Jason raised both hands. Calm down. It's normal for humans, I swear. It's just anatomy. Varela looked like she might faint. That thing looks like a baby worm god. It moved. Jason turned red. Yes, well, tends to do that sometimes. She ran back down the hallway, slamming her office door shut. Her heart pounded like a plasma hammer. What kind of creature was this? Did humans carry dangerous parasites? Or worse, were they born with worm beasts? She activated the emergency line and called the local peace enforcers. I have a situation, she whispered. My tenant is a human. I believe he has a Shaihula between his legs. There was silence on the line. Then came loud laughter. You mean a penis, right? The officer said, still chuckling. A what? It's just how humans are. It's not a weapon, not a parasite. It's biology. Varela's face turned dark purple with embarrassment. She hung up the call and sat in silence. Her hands trembled. She didn't understand this species at all. But one thing was certain, the human was going to be a very unusual tenant. Asterisk the next morning. Varela avoided room for B like it was full of plasma snakes. Every time she walked by, she remembered what she saw Jason's strange mini shahulad, and how it twitched like it had its own mind. She spent most of the day in her office, watching the security feed, waiting for something strange to happen. But Jason didn't act like a threat. He ate local food, made polite conversation with other guests. It even helped fix a broken oxygen fan in the hallway. Still, Varela couldn't relax. By evening, she made a decision. She walked straight to the station's medical unit. Dr. Zinth. A four-eyed jelly-like being looked up from his scanner. Ah, Landlady Varela, you look distressed. Trouble with your scales. She leaned in, whispering, No, it's about the human in room for B. He's hiding something. Zenth tilted his jelly head. Yes, Varela glanced around and whispered louder. He has a mini shihulud growing from his lower body. Zenth blinked all four eyes, confused. You mean his reproductive organ? Her eyes widened. Neth let out a burble that sounded like a laugh. Yes, humans have external reproductive systems, very rare in the galaxy, but perfectly natural for them, Varela. Looked like her circuits had fried. But why does it move? Why does it just hang there? Unprotected. Zenth shook his head. That's just how humans evolved. It's not a worm, not a weapon, not a parasite. It's biology. She leaned back, stunned. You're telling me that all male humans walk around? With that thing? Just dangling. Zenth nodded calmly.
Yes.
It is considered normal. In fact, on Earth, they have entire clothing designs to protect and support it. Varela stood up in shock. Support it. They even make clothes for it. She stormed out of the medical bay, more confused than before. Now her problem wasn't fear, it was curiosity. Back at the boarding house, Jason was in the common room, sipping a steaming cup of synth tea. When Varela entered, he looked up, a bit nervous. Hey, he said. About last night, she raised a hand. Do not speak. I have learned the truth. Jason blinked. Okay, that sounds serious. Varela stepped closer, studying his face. Your device is not alive. He nearly choked on his tea. Device. No, it's a body part. She tilted her head. Why does it move without permission? He rubbed the back of his neck. That's hard to explain. It kind of has a mind of its own sometimes. Her eyes narrowed. So it is alive. Jason laughed nervously. No. It's connected to emotions and temperature. And look, it's just how we are. I didn't expect to be interrogated about it by my landlord. She tapped her chin with a claw. Interesting. On my planet, such parts are internal, hidden, protected. Yours is bold, reckless, waving around like a flag. Jason turned red. Again, not exactly how I'd describe it. Varela sat across from him. Humans are very strange, Jason Weller. We smiled. Yeah, we get that a lot. They sat in silence for a moment. The awkwardness melted into something calmer. She looked at him carefully. You are the first human I've met. Understand your biology, or your customs. But I want to. Jason blinked. You want to understand me? She nodded slowly. Yes, for science. He laughed. That's the most terrifying reason I've heard so far. But sure, I'll teach you. She stood up. Very well. Lessons begin tomorrow. You'll explain everything: human biology, emotion, behavior, and the mystery of the mini shahulad. Jason grinned. Deal. But I get to ask about your species too. Varela paused, then nodded. Fair exchange. But remember, any sudden movement of your worm will result in you sleeping in the airlock. Jason raised his hands. Noted. As she walked away, something strange happened. Varela's heart gave a small flutter. She blamed it on the tea, but deep down she knew something had started. Something she didn't expect. The next morning, Jason was waiting in the common area, sipping a cup of synth coffee. He had no idea what to expect. His alien landlady had declared the start of human study sessions, and something told him this wasn't going to be like. School Varela walked in. Carrying a crystal notepad and wearing what looked like a serious expression, but Jason noticed her antennae twitching with curiosity. "We will begin now," she said firmly. "Sit still. Answer truthfully. And do not move your worm unnecessarily." Jason nearly spit his drink. "Still calling it that, huh?" Varela sat across from him. "Till I understand it better. Yes. Now, first question. Why do humans touch each other's hands when greeting?" Jason smiled. "It's called a handshake. It's a way to show respect and trust." She leaned forward. "And if you use two hands, that means you're really happy to see someone." She tapped her notepad. "Strange. On my planet, we show trust by showing our throat." Jason raised his eyebrows. That would be considered weird. On Earth, Varela didn't laugh. She was focused. Next question. Why do humans cover their bodies with cloth all the time? Jason blinked. To stay warm, to protect ourselves, and sometimes to look good." She nodded slowly. "So your worm is shy." Jason groaned. "Varela," she looked up. "It's part of the research." He gave in. "Fine. Yes, it's private. In our culture, you don't show it in public? Ever," Varela wrote furiously. "So it is a sacred object." Jason chuckled. "That's one way to put it." Varela put down her notepad and folded her arms. "Now it is your turn. Ask." Jason thought for a moment. "Okay, why do your people never show emotions? You never smile. You never frown, just calm and blank." She looked puzzled. "We do show emotion. We just do not twist our faces like you. Our antennae shift slightly. Our eye glow changes color. And our scent carries meaning." "Scent." "Yes. Right now I smell like interest." Jason paused. "Wait, you're interested in what?" She raised one brow. "In the strange species sitting across from me. You eat soft food, make strange noises called music, and walk around with a living decoration between your legs. Fascinating." Jason laughed so hard he nearly fell off the chair. Varela tilted her head. "Is this how humans express happiness?" He wiped his eyes. "Yes, that's laughter. When we enjoy something, or when something is funny." "Explain funny." Jason leaned in. "It's when something is unexpected or absurd. Like you thinking my anatomy was a sandworm." She blinked. "That was not funny." "Was terrifying, which is what made it funny." Jason grinned. She stared for a moment, then scribbled again. "Humor is dangerous," sometimes Jason said, "but it also brings people closer." Varela leaned back, her sharp claws tapping the table slowly. "Perhaps our species could learn something from yours." Jason smiled, "And maybe we could learn from yours." They stared at each other for a moment. The silence was not awkward. It was full of something new. Something growing then. Varela stood up suddenly. "Next session, human bonding rituals. You will demonstrate." Jason's face turned red. "Demonstrate. What kind of bonding?" She raised her notepad. "The one involving food and emotion." "You call it a date?" Jason relaxed. "Oh, that kind of bonding." Varela looked curious. "Do you need to bring your worm to that?" Jason facepalmed. "Let's leave him out of it for now." "Understood, seriously. Understood." "Tomorrow. Evening. Meet in the observatory lounge. I will bring, what do you call it, sparkling soda?" "Perfect," Jason said, smiling wide. As she walked away, her antennae twitched again. Jason watched her go, wondering how a conversation about anatomy had turned into something like friendship, maybe even more. Asterisk, the observatory lounge on Varnick 7 was the quietest place on the station. A glass dome looked out into space, where stars moved like silver dust. This was where Varela waited holding 2 bottles of sparkling soda, unsure if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. She wasn't sure why she had asked Jason to meet her again. It was supposed to be a cultural exchange. Research. Nothing more. But her antennae betrayed her. They twitched whenever she thought about him. Then the door opened. Jason stepped inside. He was wearing a clean shirt and that same crooked smile. "Wow, this place is beautiful." Virella handed him a bottle. "Drink. It's part of the ritual." "Yes." Jason chuckled. "Yeah, you're doing great so far." They sat in silence for a moment, sipping their drinks while stars drifted past. "Above them, Jason said, I didn't expect to like this place. I thought it would be cold, alien, lonely. And now?" She asked softly. He looked at her. "Now it feels like the most interesting place in the galaxy." She looked away, hiding her sudden color change. "That is, it's not logical." Jason laughed. "Neither is falling for someone who once screamed at my anatomy." She choked on her soda. "I was unprepared. I noticed." They both laughed. It felt natural. It's like their barriers were slowly falling. But then the door opened again, Dark figure stepped in, council officer. Marin, tall, cold, wearing the silver armor of the station authority. Virella stood at once. "Officer, this is a private meeting." Marin raised a hand. "We receive reports that you've been spending time alone with a human, repeatedly." Virella narrowed her eyes. "That is not illegal." "It is discouraged," Marin said. "You are a high caste native of Varnic 7. You represent our traditions. If the council hears of this bonding, you may lose your rights, even your property." Jason stood up, calm but firm. "She hasn't done anything wrong." Marin looked at him with thin disgust. "You are an off-worlder. You do not understand what's at stake." "I understand enough," Jason replied. "You're afraid of something different." Marin stepped closer. "This is your only warning. Break off this contact, or you both suffer the consequences." Then he turned and walked out, his cloak trailing like a shadow behind him. The room was silent. Virella sat back down, hands shaking slightly. Jason said nothing. "I didn't think it would come to this," she whispered. "Are you okay?" he asked. She didn't answer for a moment. Then she looked at him, not like a researcher, not like a landlady, but as someone standing on the edge of a decision. "I have followed rules all my life," she said quietly. "I have obeyed laws, respected customs, and stayed within lines. But you stepped into my world, and everything feels louder, brighter, alive." Jason's heart beat faster. "Virella." "Oh." She held up a hand. "Don't say it. Not yet. If I choose this path, I lose everything. My title, my status, even my home." Jason nodded slowly. "I understand. I didn't come here to break your world." She looked at him with eyes that shimmered like moons, but maybe it needed breaking. Then she stood. "Go now." Before. "I changed my mind." Jason hesitated. "I'll go. But know this, Sci. Don't care about your title, your species, or your laws. I care about you. That's all." He left. Virella remained, staring out into the stars, her claws tightened around. The soda bottle, in her world, falling for a human was forbidden, but in her heart, it was already too late. For 2 whole days, Jason didn't leave room for B. No laughter, no singing, no scent of coffee. Virella felt the silence like a weight in the air. She tried to focus on her work fixing rental reports, cleaning ductas, but her thoughts kept returning. To him, to his words, "I care about you, that's all." Those words weren't allowed. Not here. Not between species. Still, her antennae kept twitching toward the hallway. She wanted to knock. She wanted to ask if he was okay. But fear kept her frozen until the 3rd night. It was nearly dark cycle when she finally stepped outside his door. She raised her claw to knock, hesitated, then did it anyway. 3 soft taps. Silence. Then the door opened. Jason stood there, tired but calm. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept. But when he saw her, he smiled gently. "I was wondering how long it'd take," he said. Virella spoke softly. "I needed time. Jason nodded. Me too. She looked around nervously. Can we talk inside? He stepped aside and let her in. The room was dim, lights low. A datapad blinked on the table. Papers were spread everywhere, notes, maps. Strange symbols. Varela tilted her head. You've been busy, Jason sighed. I need to tell you the truth, not the tourist version. The real reason I came here? She crossed her arms. You lied? He raised both hands. I never meant to. At first, it was just exploration, observation. But I'm not just a traveler. I'm part of a deep contact mission from Earth. We're studying potential allies and threats. Her body tensed. So I was just dated to you? No, he said quickly. At first, maybe. But then I met you. You weren't part of any report. You were the surprise I didn't expect. Irella stayed quiet. Jason took a breath. Earth is changing. We've been isolated for too long. The galaxy is dangerous. Political lines are drawn. Treaties fall like dust. We need allies, real ones, not just military. People who understand us. She looked at him, and you thought, a romantic connection would fix that? He shook his head. No, I didn't plan this. You weren't part of the mission. You were just you, and that changed everything. Silence filled the room again. Then Varela stepped closer, her voice steady. So if your leaders find out you've developed feelings for a Varnokian female, what happens? Jason smiled. Sadly, they'll probably pull me off the station, maybe call me back to Earth. Maybe worse. Then why stay? He met her eyes. Because if I leave without telling you how I feel, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Dropped slightly like a sigh. I spent my whole life following rules, she whispered. But when you look at me, I feel like more than a name in a system. Jason stepped closer. That's because you are. Varela stared at him for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched his hand. Not a claw, not a scan, just touch, warm, alive, real in her world. This act was rare. Sacred. Jason didn't say a word. He just held her hand, and the silence between them was filled with something bigger than fear. Suddenly, a sharp alarm blared from Jason's datapad. Warning. Unauthorized contact detected. Mission compromise level. High recall order. PN Diane Gigason. Sighed. They know. Varela looked at the screen. Then we don't have much time. Jason turned to her. Varela, I'm not leaving without you. She blinked. What? Come with me, he said. Leave this station. Come to Earth. See it. Feel it. Not just as an alien, as my equal. Her heart thundered like plasma fire. Leave everything. Break every law. Be with the human who made her laugh, question, and feel. She looked into his eyes and gave a small nod. One condition, she said softly. Anything. She smirked. No. More calling it a worm. Teach me its real name. Jason laughed. Deal! Outside the door, cameras blinked silently. The council would soon act, but the two souls inside had already made their choice. Asterisk. The courtroom on Varnic 7 was built inside a giant sphere of blue crystal. It floated above the station's core reactor, symbolizing wisdom above power. Normally, it held minor cases, trade disputes, property fights, docking violations. But today, it was full. Aliens of every shape, color, and species packed the upper platforms. Reporters hovered with micro-drones. The air buzzed with whispers. Because today, a Varnokian landlady was on trial for bonding with a human. Varela stood at the center platform, back straight, claws clasped in front of her. She wore her formal scales, but she had no mask, no shield, just truth. Jason stood beside her, unchained, unafraid. The high speaker, towering creature with 6 glowing eyes, tapped its staff. Varela of Station 7. You are charged with violating interspecies connection protocols. Do you understand these charges? I do, Varela answered calmly. And do you deny them? She looked at Jason, then back at the speaker. I do not. Gasps echoed around the chamber. A council member stood. Your actions risked cultural contamination, emotional instability, and the spread of unknown biological elements. Jason muttered, still talking about my anatomy, huh? Virella elbowed him gently. Not helping, the council continued. You spent time alone with this human, shared food, touched hands, exchanged feelings. How do you explain this behavior? Virella stepped forward. I explain it as natural. Unexpected, yes, but natural. I did not seek it out. It happened because he treated me not as a title, not as a species, but as me. Another voice spoke. Officer Marin? He looked angry. This is madness. If we allow this, where does it end? Will our children bond with fire breathers? Will our elders marry oxygen breathers? Will we invite chaos to our traditions? Jason raised a hand. May I speak? The room quieted. The high speaker hesitated, then nodded. You may. Jason walked forward. He wasn't wearing armor, medals, or fancy clothes. Just honesty. I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came to learn, to observe, to understand. But what I found was someone who made me feel more seen than anyone back on Earth ever did. He looked at Virella, then back at the crowd. She didn't betray your world. She expanded it. She showed kindness when she didn't have to. She asked questions when others would have stayed silent. And yes, she screamed at my private parts, but only because she cared. Laughter spread through the room. Jason continued. If love, Evan, the beginning of love, between two different beings, is a crime, then maybe your laws are broken. Silence, then. Slowly, one alien in the crowd stood, then another, then another. Different species, different beliefs. But all standing not for rebellion, not for war, but for understanding. The high speaker tapped its staff again. Enough. Look down at Virella. Do you still stand by your actions? Virella nodded. Yes. With both hearts. The council whispered among themselves for several tense minutes. Then came the verdict. We cannot deny what has already happened, the high speaker said. You have broken a rule, but created a bridge. For this reason the council rules. To dissolve the interspecies bonding, but under probation. The chamber erupted into sound. Some cheered, some hissed, but change had begun. Jason turned to Virella. You okay? She gave a rare smile. I just rewrote 1,000 years of law. I've never felt more alive. He held out his hand. She took it without hesitation, not as human and alien, but as two souls connected. 2 weeks after the trial, everything on Varnic 7 had changed. Some aliens still whispered, some avoided eye contact, but others came to Virella's boarding house with new eyes, curious, open, hopeful. The house that once held silence now echoed with soft music, warm laughter, and the smell of fresh food, human food. Jason had taught Virella how to cook something called grilled cheese, which confused her species at first. It's bread. With melted animal fat, she had said suspiciously. Jason grinned. Exactly. It's magic. They had sat at the dining table that night, eating side by side as if the trial had never happened. As if their worlds had always been connected. But both of them knew. Something bigger had begun. One morning a messenger arrived with a secure data pad. Jason opened it and frowned. It's from Earth Command, he said. Virella watched quietly. There. Impressed. Apparently, interspecies connection was part of the long-term goal, Jason said. They want me to return, possibly speak before the Terran Council. Virella's claws clenched just slightly. So, you are leaving? Jason looked. At her really looked. Not without you. She blinked. You still want me to come with you? To Earth. He stepped closer. You changed your world for me. Let me show you mine. Virella looked out the window, where stars glowed in quiet. Patterns. For most of her life, she had only looked up at those stars, wondering, studying, measuring now. She felt ready to fly into them. Departure day arrived. The shuttle bay was quiet, but not empty. A few of Virella's neighbors had come, some with gifts, others just to nod in quiet respect. It was their way of saying, we see you. We don't understand it, but we see it. Jason loaded the last of the cargo and turned to her. You sure about this? Virella smirked. You all ready? Risked your life, your job, and your species for me. I'm just returning the favor. They boarded together as the shuttle rose from the platform. The boarding house grew smaller, till it looked like a dot in space. Varela took a deep breath. "Do you think your people will accept me?" she asked. Jason gently touched her hand. "If they don't, they'll have to deal with both of us." She laughed, a real laugh, not a twitch, not a chemical shift. A laugh from somewhere deeper. He looked at her. "Varela, can I ask you one last question?" She turned. "Yes." Jason leaned in. "So what do you really call it now?" She blinked. "The worm." He nodded. She leaned close, her eyes glowing softly. "I've learned its real name." Jason raised his eyebrows. "Oh," she whispered. "Mystery." He blinked. "Mystery," she nodded. "'Cause even now, I don't understand how something so strange led me to someone I never expected." Jason smiled. "You and me both." They looked out into the stars, no longer alien to each other, just new together, and somewhere, on a quiet planet spinning in the dark. A crystal courtroom remained empty, its laws changed forever, because two hearts dared to ask, why not?